My name is Audrey Trotter. I'm a faculty member here at Merritt College, and I currently serve as the director of our Learning Center and our Title III grant project, and I want to welcome you to this fabulous activity today. That's the beginning of a very exciting time that will begin in January of 2013. You are the people that are going to make it happen. The Title III grant here at the college it's in its 5th year, and our goal has been to have activities centered on curriculum and instruction, professional development for our faculty, administrators, and staff, and a better integration of all the support services for students with all the things that go on in the classroom. So one of the things that we're doing now is this new thing. We're calling it the Merritt College Institutional Integrative Learning Project for Spring 2013. Right now, my goal is just to open the program. Dr. Stacy Thompson, I really want to thank her. She's our Dean of Student Pathways and Success. Long title. But Dr. Thompson has been working with us on the Title III grant since its planning stages way back in 2005 and 2006. And she also, even in her dean's role, has continued to serve as the lead person in facilitating what we call learning community activities here at the college. And she has really brought together faculty to discuss different innovative ways of teaching and making what you learn in the classroom more relevant. And she's really led the charge for this integrative learning assignment, and I really want to thank her a lot. And that's Dr. Stacy Thompson. We're going to call her up here. But the other thing is, I would be amiss if I didn't thank all of the Title III project staff currently. That would be one of our coordinators. She's not here today, but that's Dr. Siri Brown in Afram. We also have Ms. Deborah Jacks from Student Services. Our president is going to give a welcome and introduce all of our administrators in a minute. And then there are a couple of people, but one specifically, most of you have come in contact with her if you're working with the Title III grant. Her name is Alejandra Tomas. Alejandra, I really want to thank her because she really makes things happen, and I don't have to ask her ever. She just knows what to do, and she gets it done, and she did an excellent job in assisting in the preparation for today's program. So at this point, I'd like to call up Dr. Stacy Thompson. I'd like to call up our president, Dr. Patricia Stanley, who will give a welcome to all of you and introduce the college administrators. Dr. Stanley.
Thank you, and I want to add my thanks to Stacy and Audrey and all the people on the Title III. You're very, very fortunate here at Merritt to have this Title III grant because it gives us that opportunity to do things that we might not otherwise be able to do. And what we do here at Merritt is change lives through education. And so I'm so excited to see this happening here. It's really cutting edge. Before I came to Merritt, I was involved in writing a monograph for community colleges about first-year experience and what we should do at community colleges. And one of the things in there is learning college and doing things like having these learning communities. And so excited to find that we're doing them here. So you are very fortunate to be at Merritt during a time when we're doing such exciting work. At this point, you've met Stacy. She's one of our administrators. Anita Black, our interim vice president of instruction, is here. And she's only going like this. We do have other administrators, of course, but hopefully they're working very hard doing whatever it is they're supposed to be doing because they're not here. And then we also have Charles Neal from the district. Where is he? Back there. Does sustainability. So it's nice to know we have support from the district as well. So welcome everyone, take advantage of this. It's a really exciting project. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Yes, I know you're all here because food matters at Merritt College, right? Right. We have some excellent tables from our wonderful faculty. We absolutely have some nutritious eats for you at the end, and I hope that you can be patient and hang out while we listen to our fabulous speaker today. So I won't keep you. I just want you to know what the long-term goal of all of this is. Having a cross-disciplinary integrative assignments is to have one or more faculty member from each discipline throughout Merritt College participate with one integrative learning assignment that's centered around the theme of food matters at Merritt College. And if you look at this, if you go to all these tables, which you have to go to at least 5 tables in order to get food today, so I'm sure you'll see all the tables, you'll see how this notion of food it spans every discipline at the college. And so looking at this one issue from a variety of different perspectives is what our goal is in terms of having these conversations around food. So we have monthly activities planned around food, starting, this is our kickoff. We're going to have something in January, February, March, and our culminating activity will be in April, where we will have another big event like this that really look on Earth Day and really look at food and how it matters. It's my honor to introduce our guest speaker today. She is, if you've gotten any of the emails or seen any of the flyers, you know that Judith Scott has been a professional actor for over 27 years. She was a child star. She was a star when she was a baby, yes? She is a 6-year veteran of the Chicago and Toronto Second City Theater. Her company includes Chris Farley and Joel Murphy. She also wrote a 2-person play about the cooking exploits in Tuscany called La Regina, and a one-person account which is a one-person account about her genealogical travels through the South, the Book of Judith. Judith is also a theater producer, director, acting coach. Movie and television credits include Flight Plan. Do you recognize her? Yeah. Flight Plan, Fracture, Guess Who, Dexter. You weren't a serial killer, right? No. Okay. Okay. Lincoln Heights, House of Pain. Judith is a food activist, but spends most of her time in the kitchen and eats for pleasure, as do we all. I'd like to welcome Ms. Judith Scott.
Thank you all. I am really excited to be here. Apparently, the person who had been initially invited is some lazy writer named Frances Moore LePay. And she was too busy or something. So I was asked to come, and I'm very thrilled to be here. I don't normally speak publicly, so you'll bear with me. If any of you feel so inclined to move closer to me, that would make me feel, as a performer, a little bit more enveloped in your generous listening energies. That as a theater actor or a theater animal, I kind of need your heat. Come on forward, children. Come forward. Move your center, people. I see you in the center. Move forward. Your brains are saying yes, but your bodies are saying no. I'm going to tell you a few stories, and it'll give you an indication of how food has played out through my life. I carry these. They are in my purse all the time. I do not throw away plastic at all. When I was 7 years old, I had very long hair. My mother used to spend one day out of the month washing and oiling, and she would braid it up into little dookie braids. And one day I came home with my hair wild out like like the snakes of Medusa. And I walked in the door and I asked my mother, Mom, what's nigger food? And what had happened is someone at school had said to me, you eat nigger food. Because my mother was making homemade biscuits with sausage and wrapping it in wax paper. So shortly after that, my mother stopped having, I don't know if any of you remember, in the old days, they used to keep cans of grease at the back of the stove. Anybody old enough to remember that? Okay. Well, that went away, and we started eating canned goods. We started eating frozen foods. And my father's people, who were in the country and owned hogs and farmland, my uncle had an opinion about that. He didn't think that was very, he didn't like the idea that we were eating canned foods. And I took that to heart. And as I grew older, certainly into my teens, I had a kind of strike against white food. I wouldn't eat white rice. I wouldn't eat white bread. I wouldn't drink milk. I just had some aversion to white food. It had nothing to do with color, race. It had something to do with the lack of color. I was then eventually grounded quite frequently for eating the carrots because I wanted to eat mostly vegetables. I didn't know why I was attracted to these things. I just was. And my mother always grounded me towards the end of the week because she would go to make her what do you call that? Her roast, which I wouldn't eat. But I had eaten all the carrots. So I think I was a little bit ahead of my time then. A few years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I traveled to, let me start over. I was asked to cook for a family in Beverly Hills, and they had a 5-star chef that had been traveling and living with them for 27 years. And friends of theirs knew that I liked to cook, and introduced me to this family. Now, their 5-star chef was from Burkina Faso, and he was a very elegant man. And he got ill and had to go away for a few months, so I came in to cook. And they liked me so much, they asked me to go to Tuscany for 6 weeks. This was a little bit absurd, but I said yes, because I say yes to things, which is why I'm here today. And I made a beautiful little booklet filled with menus for 6 weeks that I was going to cook. But see, in Tuscany, they only had like 4 things: garlic, tomatoes, pasta, basil, not so much in Tuscany. That's not a big basil. That's more than northern. What else do they have? Oh, olive oil, lots of olive oil. And when I got there, the household was a villa, the Ferragamos, the shoe people. So I was cooking inside the Ferragamos summer home for this family from England. And they had hired in a household staff, and I was the head chef. This is all very funny to me now. We had uniforms assigned to us, and I rejected the uniform. There was a young woman from Portugal, and she wore the uniform, but she didn't wear deodorant, so we were sort of, you know. And Maria, my assistant, braided my hair in cornrows, and I was barefoot for 6 weeks cooking in the kitchen, wearing a little black t-shirt and a long black skirt. So I was a rebellious cook, and I had to make meals 3 times a day for all their guests, and frequently I was invited to sit at the table, having cooked my meals. Now, I'll tell you something. Once I got there and I realized the limitation that I had with the recipes or the ingredients, Maria, who speaks Portuguese and Italian, and I speak a little bit of French, I would speak my broken French to her, and she would speak her Italian to me, and she basically told me what to make. So Maria really was the cook, but I was sort of the preparer and would go out and make this great, big, beautiful presentation. It was a fairly interesting time. Now, after that time, the family invited me to come back to Beverly Hills to hang out with them at Christmas time the following year, and I said yes, as long as they paid me $1,000 a day. So I never heard from them again. About 4 years ago, I traveled to the South. I was doing some genealogy work, and I flew to Tennessee, which is where my mother and father were born and raised. And I rented a car, and because I do not like maps and I really like adventures, I just started driving into the Smoky Mountains. And I knew that I was going to land inside the koala boundary, which is where the original Cherokee people are from. And I was looking for my father's people. I didn't find them there. And I drove on into North Carolina and into South Carolina. I found my father's people. And then eventually made my way into Georgia, into the northeast corner of Georgia, which is where my mother's people are from. Now, they're from the deep, and I mean deep, piney woods of Georgia. And I crashed family reunions and a couple of funerals and some homecomings. And I had a suitcase filled with photographs of my great-grandfather, and would find the oldest person in wherever I was and ask them if they remembered this man. And of course, many of these people who were in their 90s and early hundreds did remember him. And so I ended up carrying away from me about 300 people on my father's side and about 300 people on my mother's side. Now, what was interesting about my mother's side is because they lived so deep in the country, what was available to them for food was snakes and rabbits, wild rabbits, and squirrels. And my young cousins, who are several generations younger than me, would lament to me how sad it was that their grandmother was dead and that they couldn't garden anymore, and they really missed their grandmother's squirrel with gravy. Now, I never ate any of those things with them because nobody knew how to cook it. But this was a big aria with them, that they couldn't eat these foods anymore. I also met a woman named Aunt Sis. She is kind of a distant relative of mine, and she has about 27 members in her family. Now, Aunt Sis, when you go to her house for breakfast, she makes you scrambled eggs, sausage, flour, and salted bacon. That means that she flours the bacon, puts salt on it, and then fries it. Yes, wow. Salmon croquettes, biscuits, grits, baked apples, and crackling every day. And I ate it, and it was so good. But that was a lot of pig, a lot of pig. Aunt Sis used to, when I was there, she would stand in the corner. She's a very tall lady, and a sort of very outgoing personality, and she would say, "I'm gonna watch what that girl's gonna eat. What's she gonna eat? Lord, she gonna eat everything." She couldn't believe that I would eat the things that she had made. For some reason, she thought I was gonna eat differently. But I'm someone who, when I travel, I eat whatever's there. And I think that's kind of an important rule of thumb when you're traveling. Eat what's there. The people that I met in the South taught me a lot about my bloodline foods. And I'm grateful for that because as a child, my mother left our bloodline foods behind and we began to eat in the corporate system. And I think what's happening now is we're all eating off the corporate system, the corporate trough. In the late 80s, I started to hear about a thing called genetically modified organisms. Monsanto was being profiled in a magazine called Utne Magazine. Has anyone ever heard of this magazine? So in the mid-80s, Utne Magazine was writing about GMOs. And I took note of that. I didn't know why that was important. I just took note of it. And shortly after, I read a book that spoke about seeds as life, and that Monsanto was wanting to own the rights to life. In the 90s, I moved to Canada for 5 years, and I met some amazing people who really taught me how to cook again. And I remember this woman said to me, she was single, and she said to me, "I never want to be someone who's leaning at the kitchen sink eating out of a can." She said, "When you can, make a meal for yourself, sit down, set the table, and eat well, whether you're alone or with others." And that to me is civilized. And it's not hard to do. It's a beautiful thing to do for yourself. And it's certainly against what the world seems to conspire you to not do. The world conspires you not to enjoy your food. So when I returned to the States in the mid-90s, this is 1995, I was eating tofu, because you did that in the 90s. And I noticed that on the tofu packages, it said non-GMO. And for about a year, I began to slowly see that the tofu packages were not saying non-GMO. That label was disappearing. And by the end of 1996, the non-GMO label on tofu, on all soy, was gone. Now, I don't know if any of you know much about genetically modified foods, but those foods were introduced into our food table in 1996. And they have been linked with wide-spectrum autism, Alzheimer's or type 3 diabetes. They are also linked with premature aging. They are linked with sterility in males and spontaneous abortion in females, allergies, and a whole host of other things. So in 1996, these foods came into our food system. The FDA, without testing or approval, allowed them to come in, and we've seen the rise in all of the things I just mentioned, including cancers. In the year 2000, there was a lot of conversation, which many people weren't very aware of, but there was a lot of conversation about allergies. And in 2004, a large group of Americans got together and they created a petition, and they went to, who did they go to? They created the Food Allergy Labeling Law. It was approved in 2004 by the USDA. Now, if you look on the package of any food, most foods, and this is a voluntary label, what you'll see on the back is no soy, or no corn, or may have been manufactured in a factory where nuts are present. That is a law that was fought for by American citizens and turned into a law. And that is because because the GMOs were making us increasingly sick. Everyone's aware of Prop 37, correct? We didn't win, but we didn't really lose, because the tipping point is being reached. Right now, statewide, or I'm going to say countrywide, they're looking to do a 50-state initiative, which would take this to the federal level, which would make this a law in the United States that they have to put the GMO label on the foods. I think that's very exciting. I also think it's odd that we have to make a law for multinational corporations to tell us what's in our food. That's another discussion. I want you to know or pay attention that between Halloween and Easter is called flu season. Between Halloween and Easter. And so what do these holidays all have in common other than egregious shopping? Sugar, exactly. And sugar is an immune suppressant. So what's happening is you're being sold a lot of candy, a lot of sugar-based foods. And people's immunity systems go down, and then you're invited to have a flu shot, which I would highly recommend that you not do. After flu season comes allergy season. And you'll notice if you watch television that there's a lot of advertisement for allergy season, and it's very cute. There's cartoons with little bees, and the bees are your problem, and the pollen is your problem, and the trees are your problem, and the animals are your problem. But the truth of the matter is the sugar is the problem, and your immunity system is degraded. So I'm offering that as a freebie. Pay attention and see if you can refrain from sugar. You know, food now has turned into what Michael Pollan calls nutritionism, which means we are all eating for nutrition. For a while, it was about fiber. We don't hear about fiber anymore, and now it's about, what are those things called? What's it called when you are free radicals, and omega-3, omega-6s, and this sort of thing. So everything is turned into science, and you're the science experiment. Everything is scientific now around food. Now, I think that's very interesting. And I think it's also interesting if you pay attention to your response to food when you're in the world. In other words, pay attention to what happens when you see certain kinds of food. Are you salivating? Is your stomach growling? Are your eyes to pay attention to your human technology. And I suggest that you turn the technology that is advancing on you and strengthen your human technology, which is your senses, right? Your eyes, your hearing, your taste buds, your voice, your heart, your belly, and your sexuality. And pay attention to what parts of your human technology are being stimulated when you're watching advertisements about food, or when you're in a restaurant, or a fast food place, or a package store, and you're just reaching for a snack or for a drink. Pay attention to what all of your senses are doing when you're shopping for these things. I'm going to suggest that it's time for us all to take back our senses, to reclaim our eyes and our taste buds and our voice and our hearts and our gut and our sexuality. I don't know what the average age in here is. I'm 51 years old. These foods have been on the market for a portion of my life, and on the whole, I am vigilant about them. But the kids who came in 1996 and onward, this is what's going to be predominantly in their foods. And those of you who are young enough to who are participating in this amazing program that Merritt is offering, just be aware that the salesmanship behind these foods is genius and sinister. And there is no good, and there is a big difference between eating well, eating organic, and not. I won't get into the topic of organics versus conventional foods, but trust me, in the long run, it's worth the $3 for whatever fruit or vegetable you're going to buy versus the long-term hospital bills that most people encounter when they've lived on these things. I have never considered myself a feminist until this year, when I realized that the human female has been saying to the government and to whoever out there is making laws that they have a right. The human female says, I have a right. And I suggest that the human female should be fighting for the rights of all reproductive animals and the planet. The planet is a reproducing entity. Nature is a reproducing entity. Animals, seeds, plants, all of life is reproductive. And quite frankly, male or female, I believe that the political language now is going to go away. It's going to die. And we're all going to be speaking a language that is about holding on to our planet and managing our senses and humanizing ourselves again and using human language to connect to one another and not corporate language. I would like to thank, I want to call everybody here a doctor. I'm going to just say that. I'm going to make sure everybody's a doctor. I would like to thank Dr. Audrey Trotter for inviting me here today. Thank you. And I would like to thank Dr. Alejandra Thomas for being a rock star organizer. This girl is on it. And I would like to thank Dr. Nahanda Imera for thinking of me. Thank you. I want to say this one more time. We are human beings. We are a part of a wide web of a living organism. So don't get it twisted. There's nothing more important than your senses. Nothing more important than that. So thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you so much.